What's up? Ghost Fictions is here, and we're back again. This is the second part of a story where Issei was the reincarnation of the Kaiju Destoroyah. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more informations. Now, let's get into part 2. Third person POV. Everybody has at least one talent, something that they are special at, whether it be drawing, dancing, or hell even cooking. I also have a talent, a special one. A unique talent, and by using this talent all who stand before me will know fear. Night. The night in the town of Kuo was cold and silent. The building's wooden walls contained the warmth inside, while the outside was cool and silent. The gentle breeze moved the leaves and flowers side to side, slowly yet efficiently, to the point that you can't tell it's moving by the naked eye. On nights like this, every man, woman, child, and even animal is inside sleeping in their nice warm beds, soundly sleeping away all their worries. Though not everyone is sound asleep, besides the creepy crawlies that stalk within the darkness, such as ants, owls, spiders, snakes, and hell even certain types of mammals. However, none of these come close to the one that was currently walking around the streets of Kuo, eyes illuminating the darkness like the sun when it's shining in space. As the figure walked, with each step the sound of cracking bones and low growls filled the air. Whoever it was appeared to be either in pain or it was some sort of cannibal who had returned from hunting his or her prey, something that would turn even the bravest and arrogant of men green from disgust. It was funny, nowadays people say that we are intelligent beings who should not fall back on the primitive ways of cavemen. But have humans really evolved, or are they simply doing what they always do, but in a completely new way from their old one? The answer is quite simple: nothing has changed over the last 2 million or so years. Humans have always killed to survive, like everything other organism on the food chain. Everything is or has a predator. Humans are not different from common animals, so an act like cannibalism is just natural. It was only the act of consuming another individual of the same species as food. Cannibalism has been a common ecological interaction in the animal kingdom, and it has been recorded in more than 1,500 species. Since the beginning of ancient times, humans have resorted to cannibalism to satisfy their hunger, and it has worked if you ignore the fact they sometimes become obsessed with the taste. It is still common nowadays, but it can end up giving heavy penalties to those who are caught consuming human flesh. Although the noise that was coming from the figure may sound like that, in reality, this being was in fact not involved with cannibalism. The cracking noise was in fact coming from the figure's own bones, which sounded like they could easily snap at any moment. The figure continued walking until they soon came to a halt. Their eyes turned to the right and were greeted by the place that they wanted to come to. The Kaiju house. The home of Issei Kaiju, the pawn of Ria's Gremory and the Red Dragon Emperor. A boy who had been missing for over 10 solid days, with no one even knowing where he could have gone. Not even the supernatural knows where he is. Some speculation that he has either been kidnapped or killed off by some group that didn't want to face the Red Dragon Emperor. Either one is a valid theory since Issei was last seen arriving at his school, but never leaving. Some also believe that the brown-haired boy simply abandoned Ria's Gremory for his own desires, which has made some think he is now a stray devil, which has brought much dread to the supernatural. There it is. Walking up to the side of the house, the figure sneakily climbed the building until they reached the second floor, which didn't take too long. The light from the moon shined through the dark clouds that filled the night sky, illuminating the figure, which revealed them to be none other than Issei Kaiju. However, the brown-haired boy appeared to have changed quite a bit after the past 10 days. For starters, he was taller, around nearly 6 feet tall, and he had more muscle mass, nothing too special like bodybuilder, but it was still impressive enough to make any ladies blush, and to top it all off, his facial features were also sharper than regular. Issei grunted in annoyance. The moonlight was shining in his eyes, and it was getting annoying. Issei. Fucking annoying light. He wasn't a fan of bright lights, especially since he sleeps in a bedroom where the sun shined through onto his face. Maybe his parents should have given him the spare bedroom, but in the end, it was Issei's decision to choose the room. Maybe in the future, he will choose a room that doesn't have a window that will allow the sun to shine on his fucking face. He guesses that time will tell. The brown-haired boy approached his window, slowly and silently opening it using his strength. A smirk grew on his face as the window opened. He then crawled into the room and closed it behind him after he entered. He had to say that it was very easy to do something like that, since the town of Kuo wasn't really the best when it came to security. A wanted criminal could definitely get away without being caught by any police. Like there was an adult hotel not too far away from the boy's home, simply a few blocks down, and it was also very tall, so it wasn't hard to find either. Issei. I have to say, it feels kinda nice being back in this. Looking around his bedroom, Issei could see that not much has changed during his time away, though he did notice that it was more clean than usual. This gained his attention since he was pretty sure the only people who would think of doing something like this were either his mother or Asia. Speaking of the blonde-haired girl, Issei can't seem to be able to sense her presence within the house. This shouldn't be possible unless she was in a certain location known as Hell. It was the only option, which means that Rias and her peerage failed to complete the rating while he was away. Issei didn't care about this though, the result of the rating game mattered little to him since he could care less about Ria's Gremory. All that mattered to Issei was Kaneko's well-being. He had to go grab her from Hell and bring her back to his home. Though it won't be easy, even with his new abilities. Actually, what is he even saying? Of course, it will be easy because he is Issei fucking Haidu, someone who gives literally no shits whatsoever. The brown-haired boy chuckled, growing a sinister smile as his eyes glowed bright purple. Issei. Looks like I have some work to do. Time skip brought to you by Issei and Kaneko cuddling together. Issei, who was currently wearing a cloak, stood before the Phoenix household. He had to say that the building was exactly how he imagined it to be. Too much fire. He recalls Riser's arrogant personality about being a part of the Phoenix family, and he can clearly see why that is, though this doesn't worry Issei whatsoever, since that blonde chicken was nothing more than all talk. The brown-haired boy was prepared for this. Before coming here he took a little shortcut to say and obtained something very special. He approached the house, feeling the scorching ground beneath him, and yet this didn't bother the boy at all. 2 guards were posted out the front of the Phoenix household to greet all the invited guests and send off any unwanted visitors. One of the guards took notice of Issei and pointed their weapon at him. Guard 1. Halt. State your business. Issei didn't listen as he continued approaching the building. Guard 2. We said halt. If you do not, we will attack you. Letting out a small chuckle of amusement, Issei cracked his knuckles as he prepared to rumble. He hoped that they won't disappoint him, but then again they both appeared to be very weak, so he guessed he wouldn't need to worry about anything. Issei. This will be your only warning. Move or die. The guards gritted their teeth. Guard 1. Never. Guard 2. Yeah, we are faithful servants to the Phoenix family. Issei let out a sigh of disappointment. Issei. Disappointing. He charged toward the guards with blazing speed, and with a right hook, he punched one of the guards in the jaw, sending their head flying off their shoulders and bouncing off the door. Blood splattered everywhere as the body fell limp and collapsed to the ground. The second guard's eyes were filled with fear, as he had no idea what to say or do at the very moment. He blinked and his comrade was dead before him. There was no way that some regular devil, or hell even a stray devil, could move that fast. The guard wasn't even sure if one of the Devil's Kings could do something like that. This was the power of something else. Something much worse than any devil alive. Something worse than even Lucifer himself. What happened before the guard was the result of a full-on monster. Issei quickly looked at the terrified guard. He quickly uppercut the second into the air before grabbing his leg and throwing him into the ground very hard. This attack ended up in the devil gaining a few cracked ribs and broken limbs, but it didn't matter since it was still painful, and oh boy, it was bloody painful to the point he wished he died to some holy weapons. The brown-haired boy snorted. That was a waste of time and his strength. Issei. Weaklings. He grabbed one of the doors and easily ripped it off its hinges, sending it flying off into the distance. Issei ventured inside where he saw over a dozen guards waiting for him. He guessed that either Riser knew he was coming or they heard the commotion. They charged toward Issei, who was prepared for them and their worthless attempts to stop him. Within seconds, Issei was taking out professional guards left, right, and center, while more and more charged at him. While he was attacking, he was advancing to the nearest room, which he hoped was the one where the wedding was taking place. He wanted to get out of hell quickly, since it didn't really suit him at all. The large bulky guard drops through a punch at Issei. The brown-haired boy steps to the side and punches him across the jaw before grabbing the sides of his face and kicking him into a wall. A second later, another guard swung a weapon at him, but Issei drops low to the ground and attacked by elbowing the guard across the jaw, stunning him for the moment. A guard with a large warhammer attacks him from behind, but the boy easily catches the hilt of the weapon with one hand while holding the stunned guard by the throat with the other. Picking the poor guard into a group of incoming guards, Issei swings the stunned guard over his shoulder and knocks out another trio of guards with kicks. Issei. Are they even fucking trying? Snorting in annoyance, Issei walked down the hallway and fought off some more guards who believed they could take him on only to fail miserably. Like, they should simply give up by now, since Issei took out a massive group of them in a few moments with no problem. Then again, it was probably because the author wants to make the story more entertaining by having it a bit longer for the readers. But really, using the same fight scenes from another one of his stories. Talk about an unoriginal idiot. Meanwhile with, why am I still here? Just to suffer. Am I really that unoriginal? Am I predictable? Is what I do pointless? Back with Issei. The brown-haired boy slowly approached a massive door. He could sense numerous energies coming from within the room, and one. Very familiar. Issei's eyes glowed purple. He finally found the room he had been searching for. The one that had the person he came to retrieve. Kaneko. Issei. She is just beyond this door. Just then a smirk grew on Issei's face. The reason for this was that he just got an interesting idea on how to open the door. Normally someone would simply shove the door open or kick it open, but Issei had a more exciting way of opening it. This will be his first time using this move, but he was pretty sure he will master it in no time, since he did go through a metamorphosis for 10 days straight. He lifted up one of his hands and made it into a claw with his fingers. At that moment it began to get coated in some kind of black metal. Issei. I love evolution. He then looked at the door and smirked. Issei. Oh yeah. Issei slammed his hand into the door, the force of the impact, and with the brown-haired boy's strength backing it up, the door was sent flying. Issei. Knock motherfuckers. He couldn't help but laugh a little as the sound of shocked gasps filled his ears. This amused him as he ventured into the wedding room and saw a very unhappy Riser Phoenix, who did not look good in a suit. In fact, the blonde-haired chicken nugget didn't look good in anything. If he was gonna wear anything remotely good, it had to be a chicken suit, since that is what he was and always will be in the end. Riser. Who are you? Why have you interrupted Riser's wedding? Issei. Wow, I leave for 10 days and you forget me. Issei grabbed his hood and pulled it down, shocking everyone within the room as they saw his face. Issei. I'm hurt. Flashback. Currently, in the main hall, Asia, Kiba, Kaneko and Akeno are standing around the hall, and they overhear Riser's sister gloating about how her brother won with Riser's peerage with her. Bravo. Haha. My incredibly talented brother won himself a bride by destroying the Grimoires. Of course, I had no doubt that he was going to win from the start, but he had to keep it close so it wouldn't be a complete bore. Kiba. She's just delightful. Asia. Why does she have to be so mean? Akeno looked at the blonde-haired bishop. Akeno. As much as you don't like it, we can't complain. That's how the rating game is played. And giving Riser the tiny speck of credit he deserves, he was playing the game how it was intended to be played. I agree, that girl has got a mouth on her. Akeno and the others turned to see Sona walking over to them, wearing a dress like all the other girls were. Kiba. Sona. The outcome aside, I thought it was a good match. Though I wouldn't have complained if the end result was a bit different. Akeno. Thanks for the support. Sona nodded her head. She then turned to Kaneko. Sona. How are you holding up? Kaneko. Fine. The black-haired devil girl noticed Kaneko's sad expression. She knew why she was like this. In fact, she had been like this ever since Issei's disappearance. Sona. You still miss him, don't you? Kaneko nodded her head. Suddenly, the 5 of them and the guests in the room felt the room shake a little. This confused them as they wondered what caused that to happen. It didn't feel natural. Asia. What was that? Kiba. I'm not sure, Asia. As everyone looked around confused, Riser appeared from a flaming magic circle. Riser. Greetings. Oh, great devils from the underworld. On behalf of the House of Phoenix. Riser would like to thank each and every one of you for coming today. This is a historicity moment for the world of devils. And I want our dear guests to be the first to know. 2 great families are about to become one. Lord Riser of the House of Phoenix will be wed to Rias of the House of Grimoire. And now I present to you, my bride, Rias Grimoire. With a snap of his fingers, another magic circle appeared next to him, and from it, Rias appeared wearing a wedding dress. However, the doors were soon sent flying and nearly landed on some of the guests. Knock motherfuckers. Through the dust cloud, everyone could see a figure walking inside the room, and when it all faded, it revealed a hidden figure with glowing purple eyes. Riser. Who are you? Why have you interrupted Riser's wedding? Wow, I leave for 10 days and you forget me. This confused everyone, including Riser, since he had never met anyone with glowing purple eyes before. The figure grabbed his hood and pulled it down, shocking everyone within the room as they saw his face. It was none other than Issei Haidu, the pawn of Rias Grimoire and the Red Dragon Emperor. Issei. I'm hurt. Flashback end. Everyone who knew the brown-haired boy was shocked to see him. They were more shocked that he had gone through some sort of change, because he had a new look. Sona. Haidu. Kiba. Issei. Asia teared up, seeing that her friend and brother figure was still alive. No words could describe the happiness that she was feeling right now. She prayed for Issei's survival, and here he is. Akeno was shocked and furious on the inside. How dare he just now turn up after making Rias lose to Riser? Where the hell even was he? Kaneko stood where she was in silence, not sure how to respond to the fact that Issei was still alive. She always knew that he was too stubborn to die on her, but the white-haired girl didn't expect him to come back with a new look. Rias. Issei. You're here. Riser growled as he was beyond furious. Riser. You. How dare you? Issei rolled his eyes. Issei. Yeah. Blah, blah. Riser. Who do you think you are? The brown-haired boy smirked. At that moment everyone within the room felt a shiver run down their spine as they felt a malicious aura coming from Issei. This aura wasn't like anything the devils had ever felt before, it was sinister and full of dread. Issei. I'm Issei Haidao. Riser sweated as he gritted his teeth in anger. He wasn't gonna let this low-born devil make a fool out of him. Riser. Guard. Take him. The guard with a massive sword walked up to Issei, who remained where he was. The guard swung their massive sword at the boy, who simply caught it with one hand. This shocked everyone because Issei's hand didn't appear to be injured in any way. Guard. How? Issei. Simple. My armor is iron, no blade can pierce me. He started to put pressure on the blade. Issei. My teeth are swords. The sword starts to crack down the middle, shocking the guard because he made this weapon himself and it has never cracked once. Issei. My claws are spears. Issei then shattered the massive sword, causing the shards to fall onto the ground. The guard dropped his broken weapon in shock and horror as Issei grabbed the guard by the head and he started to crush his head through his mask. Issei. My wings. Issei. Are a hurricane. The brown-haired boy looked over at Riser, who was fuming in anger. This amused Issei as he wondered what a piss turkey looked like. Riser. You think you're being cute. Issei chuckled. Issei. Bitch, I'm adorable. Kaneko. More like handsome. Riser. Why are you here? Trying to save your master. Just then, Issei grew a serious expression and he threw the guard whose head he was crushing to the side, crashing into the wall. Everyone saw the emotionlessness within his eyes, surprised them all since he wasn't like that a moment ago. Issei. I'm not here for her. This shocked everyone to their core, they couldn't believe what they had just heard right now. Especially Ria's Gremory herself. Ria's? What? Third person Pav. They say that you only get one warning to things in life, whether it be from another human or something from instincts. Warnings can be interpreted by two categories, the first is an actual warning, and the second is a threat. Threat, you know, the more I think about it what I said may have been a threat. Oh well. Ria's? What? Ria's couldn't believe what she had just heard, so many emotions were flowing through her, such as confusion, shock, and even a bit of anger. How could Issei not be here to save her? She was his master for Lucifer's sake, and the one who saved his life before he died. Numerous times. So to hear that Issei wasn't here to save her from the marriage was an outrage. Why would he say such a thing? Doesn't he like her? Only a few days ago he was his usual perverted self that drooled at the sight of the crimson red-haired girl's tits, but now he was completely different and she wasn't just talking about his new appearance. Well, that was also a surprise, his aura felt different as well. It was like there were multiple souls trapped within the brown-haired boy's body, trying to escape from his grasp. Ria's wasn't sure herself, since it was very faint, but it was almost like she could hear the screams within her mind. However, she decided to ignore all this because it was probably because of stress, since she had a stressful time for the last couple of days. Ria's wasn't the only one surprised by Issei's words. Akeno and the rest of the peerage were also taken aback by what they had heard. Kaneko, Asia, and Kiba weren't sure how to respond to all this, since they have never seen Issei act like this before. Akeno, on the other hand, was fuming with anger on the inside. How could she not, since the very pawn that was supposed to serve Ria's was now saying that his master shouldn't be saved at all. The black-haired girl made a mental note to teach Issei a lesson. After all, he was nothing more than a mere dog that can easily be put down whenever they need to. Riser was the most surprised out of everyone in the wedding room. He fully expected Issei to come and save Ria's from his grasp. But he was wrong. Riser. You're not here to save Ria's. Issei. Of course not. Riser. Why? Ria's. Yeah, why? Issei, it's me. The brown-haired boy scoffed and rolled his eyes, but then he soon sensed something close by, and it was more powerful than every other devil within the room. Issei. Oh, we have a new guest. Well, I'm surprised you sensed me. I would also like to know your reason, Issei Haidao. Everyone looked over to the source of the voice and was greeted by Grafia, who stood next to a handsome man who seems to be in his early 20s. He has shoulder-length crimson hair and blue eyes. Issei. And you are? Ria's big brother. Issei was taken aback by this. He didn't expect the man to be his master's brother. To be fair, the only person Issei has ever seen with crimson red hair was Ria's, and the man looked like a male version of her, so I should have been obvious. Either way, Issei wasn't expecting Lucifer of all people to show up to the party. Issei actually felt ashamed that he didn't an invention. Then again, why would he even need one if the Phoenix house was so easy to break into? 010 security would never recommend it to any human. Issei. So. You're the one I've heard so much about. You're the Devil King, the Lucifer. The man nodded his head. Surziches. Indeed, I am Surzich Lucifer. A pleasure to finally meet you, Issei Hideout. Issei. Same. I guess. Riser looked towards Surziches, his face full of shock and fury. Riser. My king. What is the meaning of this? Surziches. I would like to know the same thing, Riser. He turned his attention back to Issei, who remained where he was. The crimson red-haired man could feel the aura coming from him, and he could happily admit that if trained a little bit more, he could surpass him even in his true form. If that were the case, then not only would the devil race be in danger, but the entire supernatural would have to deal with a threat even greater than the two heavenly dragons. It would be best for everyone if no one pissed Issei off. Surziches himself even knows that he needs to not do anything stupid. Surziches. Issei, if you don't mind telling us. Why are you not here to save my sister from this arrangement? Issei simply chuckled at the Devil King's question, finding it amusing. Issei. I don't care if that red-haired bitch gets married to Riser. This shocked everyone. He did not care that his own master was forced to marry a man that she did not love. The whole reason for the raiding game was to get Ria's Gremory out of the marriage in the first place. Yes, she lost in the end, and everyone knew that was gonna happen. No one said anything because they didn't want to interrupt him before he finished. They were curious about his reason for not caring. Issei. I made a promise to another and I intend to keep it. Kaneko's eyes widened. She knew what he was talking about. The brown-haired boy was talking about the promise that he made to her when he saved her from getting raped. He said that he would protect her, even if it meant going against the entire world. Surziches. I see. But why are you here then? Issei. Simple, I just wanted to give my sympathy to Riser and come collect what belongs to me. Riser. Sympathy, what the hell do you mean? Issei chuckled. Issei. You will learn soon enough. With that, Issei turned and walked over to the other members of Ria's peerage. He was glad to see them all, except for Akeno, since she was a part of her and Ria's little hate session against him. Issei looked at Kiba. Issei. Kiba, you do not look good in that suit. Kiba. What? Issei. Your hair looks terrible as well. The blonde-haired boy proceeded to somehow teleport over to a corner of the room and started crying to himself, muttering that he worked so hard on his hair to make it perfect. Everyone couldn't help but sweat drop at this. They were wondering how the hell he got to the corner without moving. But seeing the boy in that pitiful state was kinda hilarious for some of the random devils. Random Devil 1. Okay, I gotta admit. That is pretty hilarious. Random Devil 2. You're telling me, hahaha. Random Devil 3. I'm gay. Random Devil 2. We know, Bob, and we're very proud of you. Random 3. Yay. You're all invited to the wedding. Random Devil 4. When is it? Random Devil 3. In 2 weeks, we picked a perfect spot in the human world. Random Devil 2. I can't wait. Surziches leaned over to Graphia. Surziches. Remind me to get Bob a present for the wedding. The silver-haired maid nodded her head. Issei, who had absolutely no idea what the hell just happened, decided to ignore what had just occurred because it was pointless. Issei. Kiba, can you bring Asia back to my place? Kiba. Huh? He looked over at the brown-haired boy. Kiba. Sure. Why do you ask? Issei only smirked. Issei. Simple, I'm taking what belongs to me home. He then looked at Kaneko, who stared up at him before proceeding to pick her up, making the white-haired girl blush as Issei placed her over his shoulder like Tenjin did to that one girl from Demon Slayer. Kaneko. Issei-senpai. Put me down. Issei. Nope, you're mine. He then looked over at Riser. Issei. Welp, enjoy your wedding. The brown-haired boy then proceeded to flip Ria's off, shocking her that her own pawn piece would do such a thing to her. What the hell was wrong with him? He wasn't acting like his usual perverted self anymore, and that was a very bad thing. Besides the fact that she saved him from death, him being a pervert was like a leash that she had command of over him, and now that leash had snapped. Issei. Well, sigh all. Issei started to walk off with Kaneko, though before he could walk through what used to be the doorway he sensed something and tossed Kaneko to the side. He did this quickly because he was soon struck by a massive fireball that originated from Riser Phoenix himself, surprising everyone in the room. Riser. Ha. That will teach you to ruin my wedding. Wow, I actually nearly felt that. Nah. Everyone's eyes widened at the voice. As they watched the flames die down, they saw that Issei had survived the attack and was only missing one side of himself. Kaneko's eyes widened in fear at the sight of her friend. Her Issei was injured. Asia. Issei. Asia was about to rush over to her friend to start healing him with her sacred gear, but the brown-haired boy didn't seem bothered by it whatsoever by the fact that part of himself was gone from the attack. In fact, Issei tilted his head as he smirked. The devils watched in shock and horror as the missing part of Issei Haidu grew back in a matter of seconds. Regeneration, it was a common ability that numerous supernatural beings possessed like dragons. It was very handy when it came to large-scale battles or simply facing stronger opponents. You could grow back your limbs or heal from any kind of injuries in a short amount of time. Unfortunately, devils, fallen angels, and regular angels did not possess such a power. Unless they belonged to the Phoenix family. That is what took everyone aback because the last time they checked, Issei was a devil that belonged to Ria's Grimory's peerage. That made him part devil, he shouldn't have a power like that. Surzich's regeneration. Did he make a deal with Drake? Raphia? That was a surprise. Asia? Issei? Giba? Oh my go ow. I forgot I'm a devil. Bekeno? I am possible. How can he have that? Riser? W what the hell? How are you capable of regenerating? Only my family have th. Issei. Shut up. Everyone fell silent as Issei's hair was shadowing his eyes, a sinister aura covered his entire body as he looked up at the blonde-haired man. When he did, Riser felt fear wash over him as the look in Issei's eyes. It was the look that a predator gave to its prey, but this one was 10 times more terrifying than anything natural. Issei. Why did you do that? Riser took a step back as sweat began to run down his face. He had no idea that Issei could be this terrifying. It didn't make sense to Riser, only a few days ago he was just some weakling that his rook could take out without even trying. But this was different from back then. And it pissed Riser off. How dare this low-born make Riser look back. Riser. I challenge you to a duel. Issei. A duel. Riser. Yes, Riser knows that you are lying. Riser knows that you are really here to save your beloved master, trying to gain your pride back after your humiliating defeat from my rook. Issei simply stared at the blonde-haired man before letting out a laugh that filled the room, sending another shiver down everyone's spines. They did not like that whatsoever, it was something that should not come out of anyone. Issei. Riser. Issei grew a sinister grin, his eyes shining purple. Issei. Do you know how many millions of times I've done this? Confusion. Fear. Those were the only emotions that were in the people, wondering what Issei meant by how many times he had done this. How could he have done this million of times if he only just arrived? Has the brown-haired boy done some sort of training that had him face illusions of Riser? There is a type of training like that, but they were sure that only humans use it in combat. Image fighting was its name, pretty sure. It was where someone played out the entire fight within their mind and see if they could find their opponent's weakness before they start the actual battle, a smart but risky move since it can leave people open to attacks in the actual fight itself. Has Issei Haidu done something like that, or rather something similar to it? Issei. Let me tell you something Riser Phoenix, heir to the Phoenix family. In the blink of an eye, Issei appeared in front of Riser, which made the blonde eyes widen in pure shock because he didn't even see Issei move. Issei grabbed the Phoenix by the neck and slammed him into the wall, causing cracks to form by the impact. Issei. I've seen the other side, there's nothing. You're nothing. Riser struggled to free himself from Issei's grip. Ria stared at her pawn with a shocked expression on her face. She had no idea that Issei had such strength, making her wonder how he obtained it. Surzich's. Issei, let Riser go. Issei's gaze turned to Surzich's, who had a serious expression on his face, but the Devil King soon lost that when he was greeted by Issei's glare that was 10 times more potent. Issei. Let me give you a warning, Surzich's Lucifer. No. He looked at all the devils that were in the room, none of them dared to say a word or move from where they stood. Issei. If any of you get in my way or try and take what belongs to me away, I will bring upon an extinction-level event that will make even God feel pain. Issei's voice distorted as its thunderous call echoed throughout the wedding hall, leaving everyone chilled to the bone. Narrowing his eyes, Issei tossed Riser to the ground and finally allowed the blonde-haired man to breathe. He then made his way toward Kaneko and picked her up once again, looking at her with a gentle smile that made her heart skip a beat. Issei. Let's go home, kitty. Kaneko blushed as Issei made his way out of the room, leaving everyone speechless from what had occurred before them. They had no idea what happened to the brown-haired boy, but what they do know is that he wasn't normal anymore. He was no mere half-devil. He had turned into something else, something worse. He became a monster. Third-person POV. There are many quotes that can be used to best describe a battle, usually the top dog one ends up being massacre, and that makes sense. Though there are other names to best describe a battle, an example of such is none other than one-sided. Issei's bedroom. It was dark within Issei's room and the only light that could be seen is the moonlight, which shined through the window. Though, this all soon changed when a red magic circle appeared on the floor, the magic circle of the Grimory household. From the magic circle came Issei Haidu, who was holding Kaneko over his shoulder. The brown-haired boy had to admit that teleportation magic was truly useful. Issei may have not been able to use magic due to his weak body, but he is no longer weak. He is now strong, very strong, so he can do many things that he could never do before. Issei. Man, teleportation magic is so handy. Kaneko. Issei-senpai. Issei. Issei nearly forgot that he had Kaneko. He grabbed the white-haired girl and gently placed her on the ground. Kaneko's face had a red tint to it, showing that she was embarrassed about being carried by Issei. The latter had to say, she was surprised that Issei was able to pick her up with no worries. Kaneko wasn't heavy for anything, but not many can lift up a person with one arm and not struggle. She wondered if this was also the result of his strange new appearance, not that she was complaining about anything. She was simply curious as all, but moreover, she was glad that Issei was alright. Issei. Sorry about that, Kaneko. I nearly forgot you were the. Just then, Kaneko punched Issei in the face with her rook strength. However, the brown-haired boy didn't seem to be fazed by the punch whatsoever. Instead, he simply raised a brow. Issei. Was there a reason for you to do that? Kaneko. That was for leaving for 10 days straight. Do you know how worried I was? Issei would be lying if he said he wasn't surprised that Kaneko was worried about him. Oh right, he already knew that the white-haired devil girl missed him. It was pretty obvious that she, his parents, Asia, and Kiba missed him deeply. Sure, he may have been gone for a while, but he needed to, since he had to get some things done. He also did not want either Riaz or Akeno to know what he was doing. He has plans for those two bitches. Very fun plans that will leave the world speechless. For now, he will simply wait for the right moment to teach those two bitches a lesson. Until then, he will spend as much time as he wants with Konko. Is Kaneko. Issei. I know I made you worried, but you do not need to worry anymore. I won't be leaving you anytime soon. Kaneko stared at the boy before her. She then hugged him, which caught him by surprise, but he didn't mind it at all. Kaneko. I'm glad you're okay. Issei smiled. Issei. And I'm glad you're still the same adorable Kaneko I know all too well. Kaneko blushed as she snuggled into Issei's neck. The latter soon started to pet the devil girl's back, which made her purr in response. Hearing this caused Issei to chuckle because he think it was very cute, which wasn't much of a surprise because Kaneko was always adorable. Issei. Cute. Kaneko blushed at Issei's words. She normally would punch him for saying something like that. But she decided to just let him have it just this once because she was glad that Issei had returned to her. She will not let anything happen to him. She will protect him no matter what will come their way. Even if it meant going up against the three factions herself. Some may think that she has lost her mind. And she would agree with those words. However, Kaneko simply doesn't care because she had already lost Issei once. That will not happen ever again. The brown-haired boy slowly grew a smirk as it seemed to know what Kaneko was thinking. She thinks that she needs to protect him. No, he doesn't need any protector because he already knows how everything will play out. While his body went through a 10-day metamorphosis, his mind and soul, on the other hand, went on several journeys of their own, and he can happily say that each one has given him more strength than his sacred gear could have ever given his frail weak body. Speaking of the god item, Issei still can't get into contact with Dreg. Though that matters little since the Welsh dragon was simply resting after using up a lot of his energy. Stuff like that can happen from time to time. Should Issei be worried? No, why would he? Dreg was already dead, so nothing bad could happen to him unless there was a way for spirits or souls to be destroyed. If that was the case, then Issei would have accepted Riser's challenge and instantly destroyed his soul, regardless if he was immortal or not. Issei. It's best that Dreg stays asleep. He'll just get in the way of things that are out of his league. Issei and Kaneko continued to hug each other, the white-haired devil girl snuggling herself into Issei's neck, the latter smiling as he remained where he was because he couldn't move a muscle. But it all got ruined as a magic circle, followed by a flame pillar appeared, and the one who came out of it was the king of fried chicken himself. Both Issei and Kaneko looked at the heir to the Phoenix house, though Issei wasn't really happy to see the chicken, because he had a feeling he knew why he was here. But did he have to ruin his carpet? While the house wasn't something like a mansion, the damn stuff inside the place was still expensive. Issei. Great, now I need to pay for a new carpet. Issei let out a sigh of annoyance. Issei. What do you want, fire chicken? Riser. Fight. Me. Issei simply stared at the blonde-haired man with a deadpan expression as he crossed his arms. Kaneko at this point had stopped hugging Issei and started sitting in his lap. She, like Issei, had a deadpan expression on her face as she stared at Riser. Was he really this arrogant? Didn't Issei make himself clear he doesn't care that Riser marries Riaz? Issei. I thought I made myself clear that I don't care that tomato slut is marrying you. Riser. This isn't about Riaz, Riser is here because you made Riser look like a fool in front of all the devil households. Issei. And I should care because. Issei didn't really see why Riser was so upset, all he did was crash the party and take what belonged to him. That was all that the brown-haired boy did. Well, sure, he had to threaten Riser and the other devils not to get in his way, or else he would bring an extinction-level event upon them. He still is planning on doing that if Issei gets ticked off. In fact, it might be happening sooner than he originally thought. Riser. Boy, Riser doesn't tolerate those who make Riser a fool, especially from a low-class devil, and won't get any mercy from Riser. Issei couldn't help but laugh a little at Riser's words, low-class devil. That's right. He hasn't told anyone yet, they all still think he is some low-born devil. He hasn't picked the right time to do the big reveal, he's just letting things play out and watching from the sidelines. Issei. Sorry, but I don't do requests for annoying pricks like you, so come back when you're worth my time. Riser gritted his teeth in anger, how dare this low-born disobey him. He was Riser Phoenix, heir to the Phoenix family and a proud nobleman, the hellfire of his family can scorch anyone to ash. Riser soon said something he shouldn't have said, something that unknowingly made him sign his fate. Riser. Fight Riser now or he'll make that Nico's life miserable and tell her what her older sister did, and Riser use her as his personal stress relief. Silence filled the room as Kaneko was shocked by what Riser said. How did he know about what her older sister did? No one knows about that since it was ages ago, he had to be bluffing. There was no way that he knew what happened that night, he had to be. Suddenly, both Kaneko and Riser felt a shiver run down their spines as Issei's hair was covering his face, but from the darkness Riser could see a crimson red eye staring at him. When he saw it, Riser felt like all the arrogance of cockiness within him just vanished and was replaced with nothing but pure fear. Issei. What did you say? Kaneko was shocked by Issei's tone, it sounded cold and full of nothing but hatred. She never took Issei as the type to harbor hatred, seeing that the brown-haired boy was always so cheerful when she saw him either at school or at the orc. Riser soon shook off his fear as he grew an arrogant smirk, it was about time he got Issei's attention. Maybe now he will finally get some respect from the low-born devil. Riser said he will. Issei cut him off as he landed a devastating punch on his gut, this attack was so strong it sent Riser crashing into his bedroom wall, creating a crater from the impact. It was a good thing that his parents weren't home at the moment, Issei knew they weren't when he first arrived back at his house. If he had to take a guess, they were out somewhere trying to cheer themselves up because they still think he is gone or something along those lines. Riser growled and got up as his fire wings burst out of his back. Riser. How dare you attack Rise? Issei cut Riser off by grabbing him by his head and slamming him repeatedly against the floor until he stopped and placed his foot on his head. Issei. Say it again. I dare you. Kaneko could only watch in both shock and horror as Issei started to repeatedly stomp his head on Riser's head, making the blonde scream in pain. She had never seen Issei so aggressive before, must be another change he went through while missing for 10 days. Riser. Why you bastard. How dare you? Issei. Me. No. How dare you? A dark aura began to cover Issei's body as all Riser and Kaneko could see were the piercing crimson red eyes that illuminated the darkness within the room, but this barely helped them since their bodies were shaking in complete and utter fear. Issei. No one. And I mean no one threatens what belongs to me. From behind Issei, both Riser and Kaneko could see a glimpse of something monstrous. Whatever it was. It didn't belong to any supernatural race, what they saw was a full-on monster. Riser gritted his teeth as he brought himself to his feet and summoned a giant fireball, he threw it at the brown-haired boy in hopes of taking him for good. Whatever he was far too dangerous to be kept alive. Issei Haidu had to be destroyed, no matter the cost. However, Riser watched as Issei caught his fireball with one hand and simply ate it like it was nothing. Riser's eyes widened in pure shock and horror, how could someone eat his fire? The Phoenix fire was by far the strongest type of fire in the world, only being surpassed by the flames of a dragon. Not even one of the 4 great Satans could have survived against a constant amount of flames, even with protective barriers. Issei smirked as his eyes shined red. Issei, thanks Riser. I was planning on taking this from you. Forcefully, but you just gave me it. Riser. What the hell do you mean? Issei only chuckled as a familiar pair of fiery wings sprouted from his back, illuminating the brown-haired boy's bedroom. Kaneko continued to watch the events play out before her in silence, shocked that Issei somehow took the powers of a member of the Phoenix House. This was unheard of. Only pure-blooded devils of the Phoenix House could use those flames, and yet here Issei is, using it without a care in the world. Riser. What the hell are you, why you monster? Issei's expression changed as it became serious, cracking his neck in the process. Issei. Now, suffer. Meanwhile, far from the town of Kuo, so far that it was like an entire anime season long, was a cave that resided within one of the mountains of Nepal. Standing in front of the cave was none other than the owner, Office, the dragon god of infinity. She stood in silence as she stared out to the other mountains of Nepal. She could still feel the magical power from before, but this time it was much more than she could have imagined. Office herself didn't know exactly what it was, but feeling this power made her feel like she was staring into the abyss. Water. Darkness. Silence. Cold. Emptiness. Normally silence is exactly what Office wants, mainly because it was all that she craved. But this silence wasn't the same as the one from her home, the dimensional gap. This silence was much more, and not in a good way, may she add. To top it all off, as she stared into the abyss, she could feel like something was staring back at her. Office. What are you? Meanwhile, in the dimensional gap. Within the chaotic void known as the dimensional gap, a place where all dimensions are basically connected to each other. Flying through the void without a care in the world was a massive red western dragon with a horn on his snout and 2 sets of wings. Also, its overall length was around 100 meters. This creature went by many names and titles, such as the Dragon of Dreams, Dragon of Dragons, DD, True Dragon, the True Red Dragon God Emperor, and the Apocalypse Dragon. Though, every supernatural being knew this creature by its true name, Great Red. The enormous western dragon flew through the void, minding its own business as it always does. However, that soon came to an end as it sensed something that it has never sensed before. It was quite strange because it left like there were numerous eyes staring at the massive creature from all directions. Great Red's golden eyes moved side to side, trying to locate whatever was observing him. In the end, it simply shrugged this feeling off since it couldn't find anything. With that said, Great Red went back to what he was doing, which was flying around, doing nothing. Meanwhile, in heaven, also known as the heavens, is a common religious, cosmological or transcendent supernatural place where beings such as deities, angels, souls, saints, or venerated ancestors are said to originate, be enthroned, or reside. According to the beliefs of some religions, heavenly beings can descend to earth or incarnate, and earthly beings can ascend to heaven in the afterlife, or, in exceptional cases, enter heaven alive. Heaven is often described as the highest place, the holiest place, a paradise, in contrast to hell or the underworld or the low places, and universally or conditionally accessible by earthly beings, according to various standards of divinity, goodness, piety, faith, or other virtues or right beliefs, or simply divine will. Some believe in the possibility of a heaven on earth in a world to come. Walking, or rather floating through the depths of heaven, was an extremely beautiful woman with a voluptuous figure. She had the appearance of a 16 to 17-year-old with curly blonde hair and bright blue eyes. This person was Gabriel, the leader of the 4 great seraphs. She and the other 3 seraphs were the greatest warriors that the God of the Bible had. Unlike regular angels who only had a single pair of golden feathered wings, Gabriel and the other 3 seraphs had 12 pairs of wings. This signaled their power, status, and importance within the hierarchy within heaven. Gabriel smiled as she floated along, passing by a few angels who greeted her. Besides being a seraph, the blonde-haired woman was also known as the most beautiful within heaven. She earned that title for a reason. The other women who reside within heaven don't even come close to Gabriel's beauty. As Gabriel was floating along, she was suddenly hit by a powerful aura that washed over her entire body. She felt her entire body tingle from the energy she felt go through. Whatever this power was, it felt sinister and full of malicious intent. Gabriel. This malicious aura. I gotta tell Michael. Meanwhile, in Asgard. In Nordic mythology, Asgard is a location associated with the Norse gods. It appears in a multitude of Old Norse sagas and mythological texts. It has been described as the fortified home of the Aesir gods, often associated with gold imagery. Very little is known about Asgard since not many have ever seen the place. Not even the other gods like Greek or Egyptians know much about the mystical place. Sitting within a throne room was a very powerful being, the leader of the Norse gods, the king if you will. The person was a well-built old man wearing formal robes. He had long black hair and a long black goatee. One of his eyes was yellow with black sclera and wore an eye patch over his left eye. This man was known as Odin, a Norse god that went by many titles and names. One of these titles is the Allfather, and many still question why he is called that. Odin is associated with wisdom, healing, death, royalty, the gallows, knowledge, war, battle, victory, sorcery, poetry, frenzy, and the runic alphabet. Odin is a prominently mentioned god throughout the recorded history of the Germanic peoples, from the Roman occupation of regions of Germany, through the tribal expansions of the Migration period and the Viking Age. Even in the modern age, the Allfather is still appearing within folklore, though not as much as his sons, since they are more liked by mortals. Odin was simply minding his own business, ruling over his people and making sure that they are safe. though he soon sensed something that made him and his two crows perk up. Odin. Interesting. Odin had never felt such a powerful aura before, which is a surprise since he has been around other gods a few times like his son Thor, and hell even gods like Zeus and Ra. This aura felt different though, it didn't belong to any supernatural being that he knows of. It belonged to something that existed far beyond the 9 realms, something full of death. This filled Odin with fear and yet curiosity, how could he not? If there was one thing that Odin loved more than anything in the universe, it was knowledge. Wisdom and knowledge were two powerful forces, sure other beings only rely on their brute strength. But in the end, all that is pointless if you do not possess knowledge of what you are either fighting against or with. Knowledge will always be a key factor in everything, that is what Odin cares about the most. With it, he could find out who or what is the source of this dreadful aura and figure out its purpose before something ends up destroying the world. Odin. What could this be? Meanwhile, somewhere in Kuo. In the upper sections of the town of Kuo stood an average-size house. Within the building in the living room was a tall man who appeared to be in his 20s with an average build, black hair, golden bangs, and black goatee. This man was Azazel, the Governor-General of the Fallen Angels and Grigori. Azazel was a bit strange because he is laid back yet serious, while also wise and insane at the same time. To put it in simple terms, his personality seems to reflect the situation at hand. Currently, the Governor-General of the Fallen Angels was playing a video game while mentally ready himself for any news that comes up from his subordinates. The game he was playing was a very interesting one, it was the new Warzone game that came out not too long ago. He had a grin on his face as he was easily decimating all these trash kids at the game, no one can top his shooting skills. Hell, he is pretty sure he could take these skills of his and go to the nationals if he so wanted to. Azazel. Haha. Headshot. Bitch. Kid, Mick. Hacker. He's hacking. Azazel. Me. You dare call me a hacker. Kid, Mick. You suck. Azazel. Ha. That's what your mom said when I had blown her mouth last night. While this was happening, he seemed either doesn't notice or just doesn't care about the fact that a surge of a strange aura washed over him. Yeah, he seems a bit focused on his game right now to care. Also, why does he have to be so toxic? It's only a video game. Third person POV. There are old tales that said that in one's desperate times. They start to hear voices of something ancient. I don't really think much about it, but I get the feeling that those old tales are about to come true in some way, shape or form. In the underworld. Throughout history, it has gone by many names, and each one has been worse than the previous one. Each one has sent fear into the hearts of all who hear it, for the names belong to a place that no man desired to end up in. No matter what. Examples of the various names are as such. The underworld. The nether. The dark land. Or its most common one. Hell. Hell was a place where the dead goes to suffer for all of eternity, a place where those who have sinned end up when they die. Most humans can't understand the concept of death for they don't know what happens when they die. Some believe that heaven and hell exist, while others believe that something else occurs when you die. For example, in Buddhism, they believe that after you die you are reincarnated and come back as something like a cow, a pig, or a rooster. It was basically isekai, but you don't go to a magic world and you don't have powers. Judaism is another example, but that is a whole other story that the author won't be getting into. Doesn't want to make any enemies with Jewish people, he likes keeping his account. In the end, hell is a countless occurrence in people's beliefs and in everyday life. Everyone normally has their own way of interpreting what hell looks like, some believe it to be a lush forest, and some think of it like real life. Only everything is red. But there is one interpretation of hell that is always stuck, even during ancient times. Fire. Ash. Brimstone. Lava. All these are the qualities that can best describe a hellish landscape, a place full of constant death and suffering. Magma erupts from the cracks in the ground like an explosion, the sky clouded by dark gray smoke, a result of all the volcanic smoke filling the air. All life was null and death was absolute within the hellish land, nothing could exist within such a terrible land. However, something does live in hell, and that was one of the supernatural races, devils. Currently, in the underworld several devils were in a gigantic room. This was the council room that the previous devil used during the war between the angels and fallen angels. The room was ancient and had a few cracks in the structure, but the new 4 great satans decided to remodel it since there was no reason to get rid of it. They might as well use it for their meetings, which is a good thing since they have a major problem on their hands. Said problem involved Issei Haidu, pawn of Ria's Gremory and user of the boosted gear. None of the noble devils can forget how terrifying the brown-haired boy was during the wedding between Riser and Riaz. Speaking of the wedding, it was put on hold by Serziches, as he called a meeting between the Council of Devils and the 4 great Satans. One of these devils was Zekrom Baal, the very first head of the House of Baal, and has been known to have greater influence than the 4 great Satans. He was the de facto leader of the devils after the death of the original 4 great Satans. Zekrom. Well, Surziches. Why did you call this meeting? Surziches. We need to discuss the events that occurred during the wedding. Devil 1. Why should we care about some low-born devil? Sure, he may have the power of the Red Dragon Emperor, but we control him like a puppet. Surziches sighed and shook his head. To him, the Council of Devils has been nothing but old fools that are too arrogant to see the bigger picture before them. The crimson red-haired man decided to ignore their hateful comments and focus on the thing at hand. They needed to get to the bottom of them. Surziches. I am sure that a few of you that were at the wedding saw Issei Haidu appeared to have obtained a great deal of strength. Wait, didn't you also say that he didn't seem to care that Riaz was getting married to Rizer? Despite him being a part of her peerage. Surziches turned his gaze to the source of the voice and was greeted by another member of the 4 great Satans, Seraphol Leviathan. Seraphol was a beautiful girl, looking in her late teens with black hair tied into twin tails and blue eyes. She had an almost childlike body, albeit with large breasts, and her personality was a little different than others. This has resulted in her usually dressing in a magical girl's outfit. Despite her childlike personality, Seraphol is a very powerful devil who could easily take down nearly anyone or anything that she came across. Unlike most devils who are either cocky or arrogant because of their abilities, Seraphol is kind-hearted in nature and wants to bring smiles to those like children. Seraphol finds it very strange that one of Ria's own peerage members doesn't care that she was getting married to someone she didn't love. She knew that Riaz despised Rizer with a burning passion, and to be honest, she can't help but agree with her on that. The Leviathan herself can't even stand the cocky blonde, always hearing how great and wealthy he was. Made her want to punch him in the face. But enough about him and back to the main thing at hand. She knows that each peerage member can have their own opinion on things, but they always desire to protect their king no matter what. To hear that a pawn piece has gone against his king and said that he doesn't care about her is very weird, something that she will have to look into when the meeting is over. Surziches. You are correct, Seraphol. That is what I find very strange because my sister has told me that Issei Haidu has been very loyal to her since she saved him from death. Devil 2. Upon disobeying his king, that brat is becoming a stray. Devil 3. Let's kill him. Devil 1. You fucking idiots. He's the wielder of the Red Dragon Emperor. We need its power. Surziches let out a sigh of annoyance, rubbing the bridge of his nose. He can already tell that this was gonna be a very long meeting. To make it worse, they have only just started, so yeah, gonna be a long one. Maybe he should have told his wife to clear his schedule, cause it looks like he won't be making it back in time for dinner. Well, he might if the meeting gets any better than it already is. But the crimson red-haired man knows that it won't ever happen. The old farts are too stubborn to listen to reason and think they are always right. Surziches. Now. Calm down everyone, we need to think rationally and figure out why he is acting like this. Devil 3. Why should we? We should just kill that brat and that Nekomata. Devil 4. Yeah, it was a mistake keeping one alive. The Nekomata. Nekomata are a cat-like species of Yaokai that specialize in using something known as Kai within the East Yaokai faction. The Nekomata mainly consist of females, with male Nekomata being very rare among their species. Long ago, most of the Nekomata was wiped out by the old Satan faction because they feared their Kai, and so to make sure that they didn't use it against them, they attacked during the dead of night and wiped out their entire tribe, kill every single one they came across. None were spared from the slaughter, not man, woman, or child. Every Nekomata was slaughtered, but there are a select few who are still alive to the modern day and are under the protection of different devil families, like the Phoenix family and the Gremory family. Neither of their family members took part in this slaughter because why would they kill a species that held no intention of harming them? Zekrom. Now gentlemen, while I do agree that having a few Nekomatas still around is a bad idea, that is not what this meeting is about. He turned his attention to Surziches, who was sitting in his chair, resting his head on a fist. Zekrom. Now, Surziches. What does your sister have to say about all this? Surziches' gaze turned to Zekrom, his blue eyes locked with the old man. It appeared to be a soft gaze, well on the surface that is what it showed. On the inside was a completely different story. Surzich. I think I may know what happened, but I can't be too sure. Hearing this gained Zekrom and the other devils' attention. Even the other great Satans were also curious. Zekrom. Oh, please tell us what you think the reason for all of this is. Surziches silently sighed to himself. He was never fond of Zekrom, mainly because the old fart always sounded like everything they talk about in the meetings is a waste of his time. Sometimes he wonders why his mother and father were even friends with him. He's the pure definition of arrogant, and Rizer was said to be that. Never in a million years did he ever think there was someone more arrogant than Rizer. Looks like he was totally wrong. Surzich. My sister and her peerage must have said something that made Issei change and turns his back on her. Devil 5. What makes you think that, my lord? Surzich. Because you should know when people change there's a source of their change, and Riaz must have done something that changed Issei. Zekrom crossed his arms as he thought about it for a moment. Surzich's had a point with his words. There had to be a source for the brown-haired boy's aggression toward Riaz Gremory, but the question is, what was that source? Zekrom. He's not entirely wrong. Serafal looked over at Surzich's, crossing her arms and tilting her head in a cute way. Serafal. But the question still remains, what did they say? Because from what I heard, he only seemed to be aggressive to Riaz and ignored Akeno. He spoke with the other members. Surzich. That's what I'm gonna find out in Zekrom. Zekrom. Surzich. You still have that item that can make anyone tell the truth. The devil was surprised by the crimson red-haired man's question, but he soon couldn't help but smirk. Zekrom. Yes, of course. Is that even a question? Zekrom had a feeling he knew where Surzich's was going with this, but he kinda doesn't see the point, since if Issei Haidu betrays the devil faction, they will simply kill him and take his sacred gear. With the power of the Red Dragon Emperor, the angel and the fallen angels won't be able to stop them if there was to be another war between the three factions. Surzich. You think you can lend it to me? Zekrom. Yes, but just remember not to break it. Surzich's rolled his eyes. Zekrom didn't care about the state of his device. He cared about how much it cost him to make it. The device nearly took over $2 million to make because the materials were so damn expensive to obtain. That is the only reason he cares about the device. Surzich. Fine. Serafal remained quiet as she knew there was tension between Surzich and Zekrom. She wasn't the only one, because the other two great satans could feel the tension. Also, it was kinda obvious. They rolled their eyes and wished they would get along, but it will only take a miracle. Actually, it would take a miracle of that miracle for it even work. Then again, there might be room for more miracles. Serafal decided to break this up before an argument starts between the two. They had to wrap this meeting up anyways. Serafal. What should we do with the Dragon Emperor? Devil 4. I say we. Surzich. We leave him be. All the devils in the room minus the great satans looked at him with expressions of pure shock and anger. How can he think of such a thing? Devil 1. Are you fucking insane? That brat is disobeying direct orders from his king. Devil 2. Yeah, he's basically a stray. The crimson red-haired devil man sighed as he rubbed the bridge of his nose. He knew it. He fucking knew it. Surzich's knew that they were gonna react like this, but there was a small part of him that hoped they wouldn't. He better makes a mental note to himself to never trust any small innocent voices in his mind, because they turn out to be fucking wrong. Surzich. I was kinda hoping I would never do this, but if you go after Issei, I will personally strip you of your status and make you stay low class permanently, and you will be nothing but slaves. The devils remained silent as they gritted their teeth and bitterly accepted Surzich's decision on leaving the Red Dragon Emperor alone. Zekrom. Very well, Surzich's. We'll leave the Red Dragon Emperor alone. For now. If I may, Surzich's. You were there and felt Mr. Haidu's aura, did you not? Surzich's turns his gaze to another member of the four great satans, Ajuka Beelzebub. He was a bewitchingly beautiful and attractive young man appearing to be in his early 20s, with light blue eyes and green hair that is slicked back. Ajuka was a very good friend of Surzich's. Out of all the four great satans, he was easily the smartest of them all. He could solve things that were far too difficult for even the smartest of humans, which wasn't saying much since he was a pure-blooded devil after all. Surzich. I did, but it felt different. Ajuka raised an eyebrow. Ajuka. How different? The man watched his friend sigh as he scratched the back of his head, staring up at the ceiling for a solid minute before turning his attention back to the green-haired man. Surzich. I'm not sure how to describe it, the aura coming from him felt powerful and full of nothing but hatred and dread. Ajuka. Hatred and dread. Surzich silently sighed. He hoped that his little sister wasn't getting into any trouble back in the human world. He told her to stay clear from Issei for a while, but he gets the feeling that won't be happening at all. If that's the case, then he better be prepared for whatever the brown-haired boy throws at them, cause he can already tell he won't be holding back his punches. Surzich. The meeting is dismissed, and remember, do not go after Issei. That goes for the other whole devil race, or else they will be severely punished. The devils remained silent as they didn't want to go against Surzich's orders, knowing how strong he really was. The man was a true monster, besides having the power of destruction. His true form rivaled anything that came against it. They doubt even the two heavenly dragons would be able to handle the power of Surzich's true form. Then again, they were dragons that killed gods. They all left the room, leaving Surzich and Zekrom by themselves. The two simply stared at each other in silence, seemingly trying to see if the other was gonna pull some sort of move or say something that they didn't want anyone to hear. Zekrom. So you think that low class found out Riaz was gonna kill him and take his sacred gear? Surzich's narrowed his eyes and crossed his arms at the old man. Surzich's. My sister isn't heartless, Zekrom. Unlike you and the rest of the council who see the boy's gear as a means to become more wealthy. Zekrom simply rolled his eyes. Both he and Surzich's turned and went their separate ways, one with eyes full of disgust and rage, and the other full of calmness and hope. Hope that nothing terrible happens to the devil race. Meanwhile with Riaz. Darkness. All the crimson red-haired devil girl could see was complete and utter darkness. The feeling of nothingness was all around her as she floated where she was. She was currently naked because she was actually sleeping in her bed. After the wedding was put on hold, her brother told her to get some rest while he goes to try and figure out what has happened to Issei. The place she found herself in felt off to her and she wasn't sure why. Being in such a place made her feel like she was staring into the void. She couldn't see, feel, hear, smell, or touch anything around her. All she could do is float and simply exist, making her feel like she was being tossed through an event horizon. But being like this had its perks. She started to think more, and she was still wondering what happened to her pawn and why he changed and stopped becoming a pervert. Riaz. Issei. What has happened to you? Just the other day you were a horny dog that drooled at the sight of my breast, but now. Just then, Ria's ears perked up as she heard a chuckle from the darkness. That is because the Issei you knew was gone. He has been corrupted by something malicious. Riaz. Who are you? She tried to look around to search for the voice, but there was only pitch black darkness. This worried the crimson red-haired devil girl because she had no idea what to do. She can't really do anything at the moment anyway. Riaz once again heard a chuckle from the darkness. Fear not, Riaz Gremory. I mean you no harm. In fact, I am here to give you assistance. Riaz. What? What do you mean? You see, I have been watching you from this place. I must admit that you are very interesting for a devil. Forgive me, I am used to seeing humans. Riaz couldn't help but narrow her eyes. This thing, whatever it was, had been watching her. For how long and why? She knew that she was the heir to the Gremory household, but she can't help but feel like whatever this creature wasn't interested in her because of that. Riaz. Who are you? I go by many names. The God of the Void, Golden King, Wings of Demise, and the Ruler of Nothing. Riaz raised an eyebrow from the title she had just heard. Right now, none of those rang any bells inside her head. Riaz. I never heard of you. The voice chuckled as the creature knew it can't blame Riaz for having no knowledge of it. Much time has passed since the last battle, and since the foolish god tried to erase all history of it. That would also be the reason. I can't blame you. Your god tried to erase me from history when I invaded your world eons ago. I was caught off guard when a old friend decided to get in my way. Riaz. Wait, old friend. Yes, he fought against me while I battled God because he was bored and said that he would just kill God when he was done with me. I was lucky to escape in time, but the battle weakened me to the point I can't leave the void. The void? Riaz checked her surroundings. The place did make her feel like she was staring into the void. So maybe where she wasn't a dream, but she somehow ended up in the void. But it made no sense. The only void she knows of is the dimensional gap, and if she was there then she would have died by now. Riaz. Why am I here though? You see, your pawn has changed because he has been corrupted by the one who I called friend long ago. Riaz. Corrupted? Yes, and it's because he heard your conversation with Akeno about killing him and taking his gear. Ria's eyes widened at the creature's words. How the hell could Issei have known about that? She said those to only Akeno and on the day they were about to depart to the training grounds. It was so early in the morning, Issei shouldn't have heard it. Unless Riaz. Issei came to school early. Indeed he did. The rage he felt when you broke his heart was exactly what needed to happen for my old friend to awaken and corrupt him. Riaz. Wait, but Issei's sacred gear is Dreg. He can't have two. The mysterious creature let out a small yet loud laugh that echoed throughout the darkness around Riaz. It was like it just heard a hilarious joke. No, my old friend isn't a sacred gear. You can say that he is Issei's past self. If sound could be heard right now, Riaz would be hearing the sound of shattering glass within her ears. Her pupils became smaller as she began trembling from what she had just heard. Riaz. Issei's past self, so he's a reincarnation of my old friend. Riaz gulped as this was bad news. She had no idea about any of this, and she gets the feeling that Issei didn't either. This means that the time days that he was missing was actually him allowing his past memories to come back to him. This could also mean that the powers he showed at the Phoenix household were the same that he used back in his past life. This just left the crimson red-haired devil girl with one simple question: who or what was Issei in the past? Maybe she could use the information to discover his weakness if he tries to harm her family in the future. However, she has an even bigger question, and it involves the creature she is speaking to at the moment. Why was it telling her this? Why was she so interested in her? Was it her past life trying to speak with her? She highly doubts that, but she might as well ask just to make sure, or else things will get confusing. Rias. So, does that mean you are? No, I am not your past self. For that to happen I would need a soul. I don't have one because I discarded my physical body when I became God of the Void. Rias. Oh, but how do I defeat Issei and who are you? That's why I am here. I may be getting stronger. But I am still too weak to leave the Void fully. So I have a proposition for you, Rias Gremory. This gained Ria's attention, making her wonder what it could be. Rias. What is it? The creature chuckled, sending a shiver down her spine. But strangely she didn't feel afraid at all. In fact, she felt a surge of determination and confidence fill her, which was a surprise to even herself. I will merge with you, with your power of destruction and my control over the Void. We should be able to defeat my old friend. Hearing this filled Rias with joy and pride. Finally, she will have the power to challenge Riser again and free herself from that cursed marriage. She will also be able to make sure that Issei or whoever this old friend was didn't harm anyone else. Rias. I'll do it. The creature chuckled, knowing that she would say those words. Good, but you won't gain my powers instantly. You will have to go through a metamorphosis which could take some time. If I just gave you all my powers, would instantly die where you float. Ria's eyes widen. If she could move she would be backing up. Rias. Hearing this filled Rias with both shock and fear. She didn't want to die. She had so much to do and so little time to do it all. Not only did she need to finally free herself from the marriage, but she needs to prove that she is the strongest devil in the world. What, you think this was some sort of an anime story where you meet someone and gain their powers? Think again. Also you might go through a slight appearance change as well. Rias. Oh, I see. The creature chuckled once more as Rias felt like she was being watched by thousands to millions of eyes. But all that was around her was nothing but darkness, complete and utter blackness that swallowed even the sun. So Rias Gremory, do you think you can handle the Void? Would you accept the power of the Wings of Demise? Rias bit her lip as she looked down. Was she gonna take this deal? Was she gonna accept this offer and gain the powers of the Void? Sure, it will make her nearly invincible, but will she even be able to handle this? However, what else could she lose? Sooner or later everyone will learn the truth and she will become the most hated person in the entire supernatural. She can't let this happen. She wasn't gonna let anyone make a fool of her. She stared into the Void, her eyes filled with determination as they shined bright blue. Rias. I do. Give me the power. Even though Rias cannot see it, she could tell that the creature had a smirk on its face. It was very pleased with the crimson red-haired devil girl's response. Good choice, Rias Gremory. Suddenly, Rias shielded her eyes as the dark void began to be illuminated by a bright yellow light. The shine from the light was so powerful that Rias almost felt like she was gonna go blind, though she soon lowered her arms, despite the fact it was still bright. Rias had never experienced such brightness before. That was saying something since she had to deal with the sun's light ever since she went to Kuo Academy. But she got used to that really quickly. This one on the other hand was something else entirely. She gritted her teeth before her eyes widened in pure shock. Something was approaching her, and whatever it was very big and had 3 heads. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching and supporting us. Part 2 is over. See you in the next part.